Als erste Rednerin möchte ich bitte Mary Pampalk zu mir bitten. Sie repräsentiert die Frauen in Schwarz.
Schönen guten Abend. Ich bin auch die Frauen in Schwarz. Ich bin mit Paul Soli. Okay? Okay. Ich komme aus den USA und war lange Zeit in Mosambik, wo wir die Apartheid, südafrikanische Apartheid, erlebt haben. Ich bitte um Verständnis, dass ich diese Rede auf Englisch halte. Ist es okay? Okay, good. Okay. I want to mention briefly 3 points. Apartheid in Israel, the war crimes, and finally, how to hold Israel accountable for its crimes. Apartheid is a crime against humanity. We are familiar with the apartheid practiced in South Africa, where people of color were denied civil and human rights, while whites were fully privileged. There were separate laws for the blacks and the whites. And in Israel, there are 2 very important documents where Israel has been accused of apartheid. First, the Russell Tribunal on Palestine, held in Cape Town in 2011, concluded that Israel subjects the Palestinian people to an institutionalized regime of domination amounting to apartheid as defined under international law. In January this year, the Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem, in a clearly worded position paper, defined Israel as an apartheid state. And I quote, "The Israeli regime enacts in all the territory it controls, Israel's sovereign territory, East Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza, an apartheid regime. One organizing principle lies at the base of a wide array of Israeli policies, advancing and perpetuating the supremacy of one group, Jews, over another, Palestinians." End quote. Besides being accused of apartheid, Israel is under investigation by the International Criminal Court for war crimes. The International Criminal Court in Den Haag ruled in February this year that it had jurisdiction to investigate Israel for war crimes practiced against the Palestinians. Part of the ICC's probe is expected to look at Israel's 2014 assault on Gaza, in which over 2,000 Palestinian civilians, including children, were killed. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the International Tribunal decision pure anti-Semitism and rejected its claim of jurisdiction, as did the United States, while Palestinian officials and human rights groups welcomed the decision. How can Israel be held accountable for its continued violations of international law? Transgressions include military occupation, colonial settlement expansion, land confiscation, house demolitions, arrest and imprisonment of minors, harassments and even killings at checkpoints, unpunished acts of aggression by settlers, and many more. As long as the West, especially the USA, continues to support Israel and ignore its violations of human rights, Israel has no incentive to change. The status quo is comfortable and profitable. However, public opinion is slowly beginning to change. In the US, for example, activist groups, especially among the youth and students, are gaining support and increasing the pressure on government leaders. A few members of Congress, led by Senator Bernie Sanders, are demanding that military aid to Israel be conditioned on its compliance with human rights. And what about Europe? Here as well, citizens need to confront leadership and demand an end to the double standards their countries practice towards Israel, cooperating on many levels, such as trade, security, intelligence, technology, while ignoring the violations of Palestinian rights. In a democratic country, the people have a voice. We need to use it to speak out against injustice. Israel is prepared to fight back and spends millions on its propaganda and disinformation campaigns. Our solidarity groups are important to help grow awareness in our own countries and to join our efforts with others worldwide, thus making our voices stronger and more effective. As we say in Mozambique, a luta continua. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!